Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the next episode of the Life Success Legacy Podcast. My name is Chris Bay, and I am joined by a very bright light, and that is Christina Conover-Merrill, who is becoming even more so a really cherished and dear friend of mine. We just recently got to meet Christina face to face when you came to our boot camp. And we're going to actually do two podcasts. So you'll get to see this one, and then we're going to do a second one. This first one that we're recording, and I don't know what order Crawford will release these in, but by recording standpoint, this is the first one. We're going to actually flip the tables a little bit. And it makes me a little bit anxious, just being real and honest, because I'm used to asking the questions. But Christina said at one point, hey, I'd kind of like to ask you some questions. And so we've agreed that we're going to do this thing together. And so I'm going to go tag you're it, and Christina is going to grill me.
Sounds terrific. And yes, I was so excited to meet you in person, everybody.
It was a great event, wasn't it?
Oh God, I loved the energy, and I love this stuff anyway. So to be there, and like I mentioned to somebody else that I was talking to, I loved it because, as everybody probably knows that listens to this, they know how crazy busy I am. They know that when I'm on Zoom calls and I'm listening to different things, I'm always working. And being down there gave me the opportunity to just shut my life off and sit and actually listen and take notes. And yeah, I need to reread the book, and I need to read Dibs, and I need to redo all this stuff and just reacclimate myself. So it was, and I love that my husband joined me, and honestly, it was a fantastic weekend. And I can't tell you that I have been able to say that about anything that I have done in probably the past 20 years. So it was amazing. I loved it.
The energy that we received from everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like the best kind of reunion. You know, family reunions always are a little interesting because everyone's got that uncle, right? And then there's high school reunions that are weird, and it was like the best imagining of a reunion of these people that you've gotten to be a part of their lives and help them create the lives they want. And we're all in it together. We're all sharing the information. It was really, really energizing. The vibrations in the room were at a very high level.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Sure. And I feel those even on the monthly Zooms, but as everybody says, it's just nothing like being in person. It's amazing. So I love it. I love it. So
all right, Christina, where are you driving this bus?
Okay, so I am driving this bus down the Chris Bay Road. I am going to ask you a ton of questions, and forgive me because I do have them written down. I have tons of questions I have had over all this time as I listen to the boot camps and I listen to your story. So I want to take a journey down, a deeper dive into your IBC journey and into your brain, into your thoughts, into your fear, and how you got out of the situation that you were in. And, just for you to share how you're just up in the clouds and a sunny, shiny day, and you can everybody can experience your journey and be able to apply it to themselves. So hopefully we can get some good questions answered, and I can get what I need out of you.
All right. I'll do my best.
So first thing is, so to love on life, success, and legacy, I can't even share with you my thoughts and my feelings enough on who you all are, what you are, how amazing you all are. And I have viewed you as, your goal for all of us, in my mind, is you want to educate, illuminate, inspire, and activate, right? So you want to help all of us learn this, you want to inspire us, you want to get us to take action, right? At the end of the
Yeah,
day. And
absolutely.
again, as I was saying to you many times in here just a little while ago, the goal is for people to trust you, and they can trust you. They just have to listen to what you have to say and your promises of never putting them in a worse position
Hmm.
than they are today, right?
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
if they lay out all their information to you and you feel like you can help them, you're going to express that and you're going to tell them how. And then you're going to tell them how to do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't, you're going to tell them that you can't. And then you're going to say, okay, but here's what you need to do. And then we'll revisit it at whatever time frame that you might be in a place that we can start.
Hmm.
So that's I just want to give you all kudos and tell you how much I love you guys. And I love, even though I'm not technically part of your team, I feel like part of the family, and I appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you.
So
And it truly is. And we say this, at our boot camps, it's like we're all just a big community. We're all pointing in the same, we're all the arrows are all pointing in the same direction. And there are people in our community that have taken their IBC and DIVS systems way further than I have, you
mhm.
know.
Yep.
Um, and I just got off a coaching call earlier today, and they're doing more than what I've done with mine.
Yeah.
And so I learn from our community just as much as I share.
Yep.
So yeah, we pinch ourselves
Yeah.
that we get to do this for a living and to make a dent in the world and people's lives. And you're exactly right. We love to teach. We love to encourage people. We love to be on this journey together. And it's just incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. I love that. And that's why, that is another reason why I try to make every boot camp call, because I learn something every single time.
Hmm.
There's always a light bulb that goes off for me.
Yeah,
You just
me too.
you think
We
you know it
started this
all.
back in 2010 researching this, and I
Yeah.
still learn
Yeah.
all the time.
Yep. Yep. That's amazing. So okay, so to start off with, so we obviously on the boot camps, you give a very brief few-minute dissertation on your history and your journey and where you started as a principal. And you were making so much a year, and you were trying to figure out what your colleagues did with their money and how they did their finances. And you stepped out of your box and you said, I need to ask somebody, and you asked someone and they shared IBC, and
Mm,
on starts the journey, right? And
yeah.
you and your wife go through all of the learning, and you were, and again, you tell me if I have any of this wrong, but you got to the point where you were still not sure, and her words were, this just makes sense, right? And so and look at me getting chills. I just love this. So what at that point, what what tipped the scales for you? So at what point did you say, okay, fear aside, this is what I need to do and this is how we're going to do it? What does that look like for you? So just deeper dive into that beginning of the journey and what that looked like for you.
Yeah. So what jumps out immediately is that we all have a relationship with money,
Mhm.
and sometimes they're unhealthy relationships. And I would say I have had an unhealthy relationship with money over time, earlier in my life, specifically. And part of that was, how I grew up, and, just parents who had me at a very young age, and thankfully committed to each other and made many choices on my benefit. And but we weren't ever wealthy. I had a truck driving dad and a special ed para mom, and super proud because they both went back to college later on in life and got degrees. And And they've done very well for themselves now. I will tell you that they're doing just fine. They just got off a 5-month world cruise. It's their second time they've done that. So they're doing just fine.
Are they doing IBC?
No, interestingly enough. And I've told them, I said, I don't care if you do IBC or not, but I don't want to be your coach.
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah, right. Yeah, I got it.
That parent-child relationship, it can be a little.
I know it.
So anyway, so there was this relationship with money, and so I going into being an educator, I knew I was probably never going to make a lot of money, but I wanted to make a difference, and that's what motivated me. So even I remember Sean, even before we were married, I remember her asking me, like, are we going to have enough money if we get married for you being a teacher? If I wanted to stay home and be a mom, are we going to be able to make that work? And I remember very clearly saying, I don't know how, but we'll figure out a way.
Aw. I get it. Let it go.
So we have. And I remember there was a time, so I was teaching, and Sean's been a business owner in her family business, generational family farm business, and we just worked our tails off all the time. And I remember there was a time when this was during the time when I had transitioned to being a school principal, and Sean was now staying home, and it was tight. And our kids, and our family had some medical expenses and different things. And I actually went through some training. I don't know if you guys have Sylvan Learning Center.
Yeah. Yep.
But it was a tutoring business. And I actually went through the training to become a tutor after hours and on weekends on top of being a school principal.
Yep.
And being a school principal just alone, like, you have no life.
Right.
And then I was looking at doing that. So it was all going back to, I don't know how we're going to figure this out, but we're going to figure it out. And so I was doing everything I could. So I was always looking for ways to stretch our dollars. And we did Dave Ramsey for, 7 years, and that was no fun. And we had lots of conflicts over money, and we didn't go out to eat. We didn't go on vacations. And it was just a cruddy existence financially.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would have conversations with dads that would come and, either volunteer at the school or come in to pick up their kids or whatever. And two in particular, one guy, Dave Buller, and Doug Wilhelm, who was at the boot camp that you were at.
Yes. I think I actually met him. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave was a business owner, and then Doug was always researching things, and we'd meet out on the sidewalk. He's like, hey, I came across this idea, and you ever heard of this? And we're just dads trying to figure out how to make it work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out Doug and I were actually researching IBC at the same time, which is
wow.
Which is fascinating. And now, we still meet and talk about IBC.
What year was that, Chris?
That probably would have been around 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we started, I can't remember, I think it was Dave and Doug, and asking about this IBC thing. How do you manage your money? And one of them said, you need to get a hold of this black book. So Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. And there's a guy down in Baldwin, Mike Everett, who's teaching this. And I had known Mike Everett back from when I was in college, and we had attended church together, but we weren't like in each other's lives. We just knew of each other. Mm-hmm. And so I got the book, and we started reading and researching and all that. And having known Mike and some of his history, which he's happy to share about his history, I was like, crazy Mike? Crazy Uncle Mike. I knew his niece. And I was like, I'm going to take financial advice from Mike? Because if you knew Mike before IBC, no one would take financial advice from him. And you've heard his story in his first 3 years of IBC,
that's what I was
right?
going to say.
If
Yes,
anyone goofed up IBC, it was Mike Everett. So I had all these like roadblocks going, wait a second. And he wasn't my learning style. He talked constantly and they were very abstract ideas. He went too fast and I think too slow and I couldn't ask the questions I wanted to. So as I say, it took me 9 months, skeptical research. And Sean was involved in that as well. And I'm reading books at night and I'm asking her questions and sharing stuff with her. And as you mentioned, it just came to a point where she just grabbed my arm and said, this just makes sense. But I had such a level of fear in my relationship with money and a fear of making a mistake and not having margin for error. And so that was just a stumbling block for me. Yeah. So when she said this just made sense, it was like I could take a breath. Okay, you're right. If I set my fear aside, and if we're in this together, and it does make sense, it's different than how we've been taught, but it does make sense. And so we're like, okay, let's move forward with this.
Yeah. And I love that, because that's one of the things, as I was chatting with you before, is one of the things I'm working on in my life is that alignment, right? Is that alignment with myself and learning my emotions and how those emotions will control my decisions.
Yes.
And if you learn to let that go, and that's exactly what I've learned to do with all the crazy stuff I'm doing. Just forget about the fear. It's okay, because you're going to be taken care of. You're good.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that. So in reading the little black book, what spoke to you when you read it? What was probably the biggest thing that brought everything, maybe knitted everything together for you?
Well, I think a couple things that jumped out. One was the efficiency of it, is that we're actually keeping all this internal and reusing dollars. And the idea of being free of outside debt, that was huge, right? Because we needed to buy cars and we had kids that were going to be going to college and all this stuff. And I had no idea how we were going to pay for all this stuff. We were just trying to make it, month to month. So this whole idea of actually building a system that we could internally control ourselves. And I'm a number 4 guy on the things IBC does, the legacy piece.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm never going to make a lot of money, right? As an educator, never going to leave a financial legacy for my kids as an educator. But because this used life insurance, it gave me a vision of, oh, not only can we use it to finance our life now, all these things that we're doing as a family, but I can also create a legacy for my kids.
I love that. Yeah. I'm actually, my kids have enough. I'm skipping my kids and building the legacy for my grandkids. I've had enough of my kids, even though I love them. They're working hard. They got their own legacy they're building.
Right.
So then you talked about too, when you started and you made your decision, what helped you draw the line in the sand to liquidate all of your investments, all of your IRAs, your 401k, whatever you had, and say, okay, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm doing with it. So when you made that decision, what brought you to that? And then how did you have the funds earmarked?
Yeah. Well, here's, and I don't know if any of the listeners can relate to this, but here's how naive I was. When I first learned about IBC, I went to the school district to the HR department, I said, hey, I'd like to liquidate my 403B. And they just kind of looked at me like, you're an employee here. You can't do that. So I was like, wait a second. I thought that was my money. I had no idea
Yeah.
that I didn't have access to it.
Yeah. 2 years.
So that was eye-opening. So then we had to go back to Mike and say, and we're all brainstorming. And I'm like, I don't have any starter money. I don't have any activator. How are we going to do this? And we had some equity in our home. And so we actually borrowed money against our home to start 4 policies. And then, and I don't have any secrets, so I'm happy to tell the numbers. The cumulative premium for those 4 policies. Now, let me just say, Mike Everett was not recommending this high of premium to start with. Okay. But once it was clicking for me, I was like, no, I know enough in the financial world. The more you put in, the sooner you start, the better it will be long term.
Right.
Plus, we already know how to live like Dave Ramsey. So
Right.
we can do this.
Right.
So we borrowed $50,000 against our home. We made $50,000 in premium deposits in 4 policies, 1 on each of our family members. And then 2 weeks later, we pulled a loan against the policies for $30,000. And we then went and paid off some debt.
Okay.
We then turned those payments back into loan repayments and refilled our policies with our loan repayments. And we did that. So we eliminated all of our outside debt, including that HELOC and the mortgage, a little bit further down the road. But that's another part of the story when I did go and access the 403B. So we eliminated some debt and we were working on it. And then there was the whole process of considering a career shift. And then the career shift is what then led to access to the 403B and my Kansas public retirement.
Yes. Okay. So dive into that. So when you made that career shift, so you had a couple years, I assume, right, that you had to be out of that job before you could have access to all of that. So what did that time frame look like for you?
Yeah, so it was about, I would say, 2 years of from the time we started IBC to the time when I resigned from the school district.
Okay. Yep.
And again, my wife, in her wisdom, as we started talking about this, and so we're laying in bed reading, and I'm reading something about, privatized banking or something. Like, it just grabbed me, and I was learning and totally into it. How does privatized banking work, I think, was what I was reading at the time. And she just turned to me and she said, you'd be really good at teaching that. And I was like, you're crazy. We already struggle financially, and this would be 100% commission. Right. And I'm the provider for our family. How in the world would we do that?
Yeah.
And true to Sean, like, she's not going to figure out all the details. She's like, I just think you'd be good at it. You like to make a difference in people's lives. You're a good teacher. You're trustworthy. I'm just saying, I think you'd be good at it.
Yeah.
So that took us down a journey of actually considering, and what would that look like? I remember going and meeting with Mike Everett in his office in his basement when he was living in Baldwin, when he and Linda were living in Baldwin, and he had our illustrations out. He thought it was going to be conversations about our plan, and it wasn't. It was about actually a career shift. And Mike was kind of a one come all to agents or people who wanted to do it. And then when they weren't successful, I can tell you there's not very many agents that have worked with Mike Everett that have been successful. And there's a long list of them that didn't make it, because the attrition rate in this is just awful.
Yeah.
Not against Mike, but just he's gifted.
Yeah.
Not everybody has the gifts that he has.
Right.
So then we actually made the decision I was going to resign from the school district after 22 years and 22 years of contributions to my 403B and Kansas Public Retirement. And when I resigned, that's when we got access to retirement funds.
Okay.
And so because we did still have some debt, including the mortgage, we actually figured out that we could, if we liquidated all of that, and part of it was philosophical, like I don't want that money in those tax qualified plans, right?
Right. Yes.
I don't want money in capers
Yes.
because capers
Yep.
is going down. So
Right.
part of it was philosophical, but part of it was math and freedom.
Yeah.
And that was taking our retirement dollars that I'd worked 22 years, liquidating all of it. By the way, I was, I don't know, 40, in my early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we liquidated all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And no one would tell you to do that. We liquidated all of it in 1 year.
Right.
Like no accountant, no financial
Right.
planner, nobody is going to advise you to do that.
Right.
But the punchline is we had figured this out and we liquidated, and we were able to turn the wind current, as Nelson teaches us, on outside debt and turn all those payments our direction. And when we turned all those debt payments our direction back into our banking system, it only took us 8 months to recover our penalties and tax dollars.
Okay.
So 8 months to then have everything in your own system that is growing tax-free. You have access to it without all the rules. You have guarantees. You've got death benefit. You have control of your own banking system. Like, what's not to love about that?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So for
Exactly.
us, it made sense mathematically. And I will tell you, the freedom to be in 26 months completely free of all outside debt, including our mortgage.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. How do you not do that based on that story? So,
Yeah.
so obviously you had the illustration, you had your plan of, you had your illustrations, you had your strategic plan of how you were going to do this. I know things kind of changed a little bit along the way, but did you, for the most part, stick to your plan, or did you deviate? And then if you deviated, how did you get back on track?
Yeah. So nobody sticks to their plan because life happens, right? That's the next podcast, right? Is your story, which I can't wait for.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that happen. I'll give one example. So I became a business owner. Never thought I would be a business owner. Had to take care of my own taxes, right? Had never done that. It was always withdrawn from my paycheck.
Yeah.
So learning along the way. So we had set aside our tax dollars. You know, as I would make money, we'd set aside our tax dollars and we'd store that in our system, in our policies.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually would pay premium deposits with my tax dollars. And then on the other side, take a loan and then pay the IRS. Well,
Yep.
1 year we did that. I remember it was 2017, and our family had some medical needs. And when you have medical needs, that's the priority.
Right.
So we took our tax dollars and used them for those medical needs. We didn't have those tax dollars to pay the IRS. So we went on a payment plan with the IRS during that time period, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And you know, just to highlight that sometimes decisions aren't mathematical with money, sometimes they're emotional. Our payment plan was relatively cheap, and we started doing our income stacking and things over here on the side. And our coach at the time would say, you know, because I would say, man, I'd really love to pay the IRS off. I don't like owing the government money, right?
Right. Yes.
And he's like, well, it's a relatively inexpensive deal. You're getting more out of this investment stuff over here. But I told him just at one point, I was like, no, emotionally, I want it done. Yeah. He's like, yeah, it's your money. You do that. So sometimes we make a decision that doesn't make sense mathematically necessarily, but for our emotional health, or for a relationship or for whatever reason, we do it. And that's important. And we use that a lot in coaching with our clients. We're like, look, not all decisions are mathematical.
Right. Right. Yeah. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
Next podcast. Okay. So fast forwarding to today. So what year? So you started IBC thought processes learning back in 2010.
Yep.
So then when did you actually get your first policy or policies? What year did that happen?
Our first 4 policies were in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you've grown to how many policies do you have?
We have 10 minus 1 that we have signed over to Lily, our 26-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which she was at the boot camp that you attended.
Yep. I got
Yep.
to meet her. Yep. I got
And
to meet
she's
her.
actually right now kind of being a guinea pig we're developing a process for second generation.
Yep.
So these kids have grown up hearing us talk about this, but they haven't really been through the education on it.
Yeah.
So she's actually doing that. She's scheduled to do a dream conversation with Jeff King. Shelly is her coach, so she's now getting to use her policy that we started for her back in 2011.
Oh my gosh, I just love that. That is,
Yeah.
and that's exactly where I'm at. I'm just starting that off with my grandkids, and that's my goal. So
Well, you
yeah.
think about what
Next
a gift
podcast.
you're going to have for them, when
Yeah.
they're 21, 22, 25 years old.
Yeah. That's what I told my son. I just simply trying to get my son to wrap his head around this, and this sounds ridiculous, but to allow me to do policies on his 2 children.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? I just had to get to that point where it's like, you either go with it or you don't. If you don't, I am not going to take money and just stick it in a savings account for them. So this is how I'm building that for them. I will eventually teach them, show them, train them how to use this, but this is mine in the interim. This is how I'm going to give something back to them. And if you don't understand it, then you can explain it to your children when they're older and they didn't get anything from grandma.
Right. Right.
But yeah, no, I get it. I love that. I love that. I want to pour into them. So I
It's
love
super
that.
rewarding, even for us. All of us on the team have talked about when we get to start working with second or third generations of this. Oh my gosh, that is so fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. I think I'm about got my son roped into it. So hopefully the next boot camp he will be on it. So we will see what happens. Okay, so how do you structure your loan paybacks? So how do you determine how you're paying them back, how much you're paying back? Just how do you process that for yourself and then put it into play?
Yeah. So, Nelson talked a lot about, like, if you're going to pay the bank X amount of principal and interest, be an honest banker, make those same payments to yourself, right?
Yep.
And then even apply economic value added. So say your principal and interest payment on a car is $300. Well, what if you could send yourself 325, right? That's just more capital that goes into your system that you can then turn around and borrow again. So we talk about that because we want people to understand the idea of being an honest banker. But do any of us on the team actually calculate an amortization table, a payment schedule for our loans? The answer truly is no. Why is that? And there's a caveat. So I got to remember the caveat. The answer is no. And the reason is because we send way more than that. And we don't stop at the end of when the payment would stop. I send my system as much as we possibly can all the time. And I set it up with, I like automatic loan repayments. So I set it up where I know for sure we can cover X amount of money every single month. And I have that automatically pulled from we have a snowball account. We call it our snowball account. and
Yep.
it automatically gets pulled from our snowball account and goes back to our policy that we use as our line of credit, right?
Yep. Yep.
Why? Two reasons. I don't need to touch the money myself. That's not super motivating to me to move it every month. It is for some people, and I get that. For me, that's not the big deal. What it's really helpful with is beating the human problems that Nelson talks about, because it's so easy to either forget, or there's going to be some need or some want that we want to use that money for. And so it's the whole idea of two concepts: pay yourself first, or for people who are familiar with profit first,
Yep.
that is my profit. That's going to my system. I'm paying myself first. Sean and I are paying ourselves first right away. Then we deal with expenses and life and et cetera, but we are first paying ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it goes to one policy typically. Why? Because we have sizable loans, and
Yep.
we've built our system over time. And so we owe ourselves over $500,000 that we have built. We've financed kids going through college and cars, and we bought a lake cabin, and we've
Yes.
financed our life ourselves. And so our loan balance is sizable, and our loan repayments each month are consistent. Are we paying off that loan every year? Heck no. Maybe never. That's okay.
But you don't need to. And
It's simply going to subtract from the death benefit when the insured passes away. So the life insurance company doesn't care. I just have to make sure that I have a plan for dealing with the annual prepaid interest.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's a sizable loan, I've got to make sure that I'm prepared for that annual prepaid interest. And even then, if I didn't have the money to pay the interest, it just gets added on to my loan balance. Right. But we always teach, and I try to do this, always pay the annual prepaid interest out of pocket, just so it doesn't compound on top of the policy loan.
Right, exactly. So with that, then, if you have used your bank to purchase your lifestyle once you got that system created, has your thinking about your mindset before, when you had all this outside debt, and then knowing you have all this, what we would call inside debt.
Yeah.
How do you process that? How do you think through that? Does it concern you? Does it worry you? Does it, do you have any, like, oh my gosh, at some point we need to pay this off? I mean, does it ever come to mind to think that way anymore?
Yes, from time to time. But I think it's a developmental process that we can actually watch our clients go through sometimes. Like, especially our people who are kind of Dave Ramsey, save up, pay cash people, never want to have debt. We can see them struggling with having debt, even if they owe it to themselves. Right. For me, I occasionally will have those like moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, we owe ourselves so much money, but wait a second. And then you go back to the principles of what Nelson taught us. So one, my relationship with money has matured quite a bit, gotten healthier. And secondly, just my understanding of how this works. And we owe it to ourselves. And oh, by the way, we have flexibility. So, if we went on a trip to Costa Rica. So you take 2 months off of paying yourself back and use that money to go to Costa Rica instead. What
does it do, right?
You
It's
have the
very little dent.
flexibility. And I will also say that I think in our culture, there is such a persistence of conversation and thought around retirement. And as Nelson said, he took retirement out of his vocabulary. And I subscribe to that.
Yep.
I believe that we all have gifts to offer society, And why at the age of 65 or whatever that magic number is, why would we take those gifts out of service? Now, do I believe you should, formulate your life in a way where you get to do the things you love and contribute to society and all that? Absolutely. But when I'm meeting with clients or teaching a boot camp or doing a podcast or whatever, it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
And I have autonomy over my schedule. And, I'm wearing Birkenstocks and shorts right now. I throw on a Life Success Legacy. I'm in my basement office. Like, life is good.
I know, right?
So
I know.
why would I change and stop contributing to society? So I think
Agreed.
for me, taking that whole pressure of retirement off the table,
Yes.
what freedom.
I love that. And that is my point to what I was telling you earlier. I don't see myself retiring. I mean, look at Nelson Nash, right?
Right. In his 80s,
The
and he was still
videos,
teaching.
right? He's still walking around. He's still talking to people and just as much passion, compassion, energy for it as he did when he first developed it or thought of it, or
Right.
whenever that happened for him, because I'm sure it was just a spark in his mind before he ever really threw it out to the world, right?
Yeah.
And so I love hearing that from you, because right, we all have to remember, and part of what this teaches is, right, shifting the mindset from what we're taught, right? Shifting us away, and people going, well, that doesn't feel right because that doesn't feel normal, right? That's not what I was raised with, right? It's like changing your religion, right? Well, that's not how I was raised, right?
Yeah.
But getting people out of that, I am working my butt off for a time frame, and I need to have the money to live the way that I've always lived. And if I can't get there, then I can't retire, right?
Yeah.
Who says you have to retire? And if you have a retirement, you retire from that and career change. Just do something else.
Yeah.
You are not necessarily just, that's what I had to tell myself, that it's okay to feel that way. I'm not going to retire. I am looking at that age because there are things that I want in place. There are funds that I want in place by a certain age. But as long as God gives me the ability and the energy and the capacity to do what I need to do, I'm going to keep doing it. And when I work with people and I get the feedback and people appreciate me and they love me and I can help them through something that they're having a really difficult time with, that's my payback. That's
Super
why would
rewarding.
I stop doing that? Why would I stop doing that?
Yeah. And you'd be robbing society from what you have to offer, right?
Right.
And I think our culture's messed up. I mean, I reference blue zones a lot. If people are familiar with that, they can Google it and research it. But these cultures, these places in our world where people are thriving even beyond being 100 years old, what are those factors that they are living longer and thriving that other places around the world are not?
Right.
And a lot of times it's kind of societal things. It's not necessarily that they're all vegetarian or they're all doing this or that. It's more of like they're invested in, they call it, in some cultures they call it the mother-in-law rule. And it's like you've got 3 generations living together. The older generation is deeply involved in the younger generation's life.
Yeah.
They're involved with their grandkids or even great grandkids, and they're involved in cooking and the patterns of life of the family, right?
Right.
But our culture doesn't always do that.
That's right. That's exactly right. Absolutely.
Having purpose into our later years is one of those key things that we've got to have. And if we don't, what we see is people start tailing off.
Exactly
So
right.
having that reason to get up in the morning is really important. And I love doing what I do. And I can see doing this for a very long time. And I will also share one of the things that Mike Everett and I talk a lot about that gives us both a lot of energy is setting up life success and legacy for the next generation of leadership with
Yes.
life success and legacy.
Yes.
So that it's smooth. And I will tell you, we talk about this all the time. When these transitions happen, we want it to be seamless.
Mm-hmm.
And we never want our clients to experience a blip in the radar. If anything, we want it to only get better.
Yep.
So that is giving Mike Everett and I a lot of purpose. Not that I'm an old dude, but we are thinking forward. It's like, okay, what can we do to make sure this is in place, not just for us? So one example of that is our business, our LLC owns at least 14 policies on our team.
Wow.
Well, when one of us jumps off the earth, that death benefit rolls right back into the business, right?
Yep.
So, and our team knows that. It's like, look, we're setting this up for the long haul. Our goal is that LSL is serving not only our clients today, but their kids, their grandkids, their kids, etc. Right?
Yes.
This is
Yes.
something that we want to be a part of people's lives for generations.
Yep.
Nelson's number one principle: think long term.
Exactly right. Yeah, and when you do that, you do, there's a level of keeping yourself young. I mean, because you have that purpose, you have that drive, you have that just the ability to give back in and of itself kind of keeps you going. At least it does for me anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Keeps that fire going.
Absolutely. So okay, so all in all, across the board, looking where you are now and knowing that you had your emotion in the beginning, I think I know where your answer is going to go. How has your lifestyle changed? And I mean across the board, from money to time to peace, harmony, happiness, sleep, being able to acquire the things that you want in life, vacations, family time, all the things. How has your life changed from when you learned of IBC back in 2010 to fast forwarding to where you are right now?
That's an entirely different podcast, because I could go on and on about the difference. It is the contrast. In some ways, it's very similar. Like we don't live high on the hog. We sold our home a couple of years ago at the peak of the market, and our kids were, out, and we didn't need that size home anymore. Not that it was huge, but we just didn't need it. And we didn't know what we wanted to do next. So we actually leased a townhome. It's really simple. It's easy. It's not fancy. It's old. We were really excited because they replaced the air conditioning unit this last year. Like if you came, we're not like Mike Everett's home you've been to, and it's beautiful.
Yes.
That's not what we live in.
Yeah.
We still, as our second car, is a Toyota Prius that my parents handed down to us. There are certain things that we really value. And there's other stuff that we just don't value as much. And I love throwing on my Life Success Legacy t-shirt, coming to the basement and doing meetings with clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
The autonomy is amazing. In fact, Sean and I, for years, we would, on the very first day of school, we would drive by the school where I was principal, Sunset Hill Elementary School in Lawrence, America. Great little school. But we would drive by it on the first day of school, and then we would go on a breakfast date.
Oh, see, I love that.
Just to celebrate the freedom, the autonomy, the flexibility. It's the freedom of time is is probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
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 I will also say, like I've always wanted to make a difference and always have loved teaching in public education, good and bad in this. You teach anybody who walks through your door. And that's incredibly challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Did it for 22 years, was involved in being responsible for anybody who walked through that door, right? And
Mm-hmm.
people care a lot about their kids.
Yep.
And there's dynamics between kids and parents and
Yeah.
teachers and all that stuff. One of the things that has been really freeing is I get to meet with people either in couples or one-on-one and be very specific about their goals and their life. And I have no time limits. I don't have anybody else clamoring for my time or energy or anything else. I can give them 100% of what I got.
I love that. I love that. Chris, I love hearing your story. I wanted that deeper dive for the longest time. I have some more questions, but they're kind of next level and maybe podcast number 2.
Sure.
But I want to kind of end this and go back to, just thanking and being so grateful for life success and legacy in everything that you all do, and empowering people to just think outside the box and change their lives in ways that they can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And like we said, the testimonies, you and me and so many other people that are so much more well versed in this than I even am. I'm so in such infancy with it still, but just knowing that we're all out there to lift up other people and take that fear away.
Yeah.
And then having you all be available to the community anytime we need you, is and right, we don't have to stress over, oh, this sounds like a great thing, but we got to pay them 10 grand a year, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So
Yeah.
kudos to you guys. I love you guys. I'm sure there's so many people out there that love you guys. And I just want to thank you for your time and allowing me to do this for you, and sharing everything that you have. And I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Christina. The love is returned for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. I had a feeling that it's much easier to ask questions than to be asked, especially about things that are so near and dear and personal. So thank you for doing this. I appreciate you're a safe person to do this with.
No.
And so I felt very comfortable doing this interview with you. Transition to our listeners. Thanks for listening to the Life Success and Legacy podcast. We hope you enjoy the interviews, the conversations that we have with the mics, and going through Nelson's book and the other stories that we get to tell. There's lots more information on our website if you haven't been there. There's some great books. Mike Kwong's Dibs on Your Money is one of my favorites, but there's others as well. If you don't like money and charts and numbers, my book, Family Banking with Purpose, is just a narrative. It's just a story, a parable. There's no numbers or anything like that. But there's lots of resources. We've been doing this podcast since 2016. So there's way too much content out there that we've been talking about. So Mike Crawford does a great job of kind of titling each podcast by the topic. And so you can search around and find topics that you're interested in. So thanks again for joining us, and catch us on our next episode of the Life Success Legacy podcast. Take care. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you, Chris.